Hello, my name is Michael Slack, and I have absolute confidence in claiming that my senior research presentation stands out from all the rest, for the sole reason that I will not be talking about my project. Well, that's not exactly true. You see, for my project, I'll be putting on a play called Right on Time. Note the future tense there. I will be putting it on. At time of recording, it's April 21st, and the show is scheduled for May 18th. I wouldn't want to go and spoil any of it now, which is why I'll be talking about the general process of crafting the show instead of the specific contents of the show itself. For those of you watching this before May 18th of 2022, you'll learn about the show's origins without spoiling the story itself. For those of you watching after that date, you may not be able to experience the show, but I still have insights that I hope to share by recounting my creative process. Before we dive in, I'd like to thank Mr. Murphy, my mentor for this project. He's been an immense help in planning, organizing, and promoting this project, and it certainly would not be possible without him. Miss Bonky has been similarly invaluable, generously giving her time to the show and the set in particular. Special thanks to Sophie Stevenson, who has been the best costumer I possibly could have asked for, as well as Owen McConkey, Alex Anavangsai, and Jordan Meyer, who have also been working hard behind the scenes to make sure our tech runs smoothly. With that out of the way, let's start at the beginning. The conception of a show always begins before the first words of the script, and that was certainly the case with Right on Time. I can actually pinpoint the first moment that I imagined the show, and that was about 2.5 years ago. I was walking my dog Hank with my sister Megan. One of those individuals has provided me with fantastic insights that have refined the show from the first moment through the present. The other one is firmly convinced that all mailmen are enemies of the state. I'll let you decide which is which. Anyway, on this eventful walk, Megan had some music playing. I'm a big music guy, whether that's songs from musicals I love, soundtracks from movies or games that I have fond memories of, or experimenting with composing my own music using pirated software on the ancient computer in my basement. I love how music can tell a story, with or without words, and as Megan and I walked along, the music told me a story. The song I had heard before. The story I had not. In the interest of avoiding spoilers for the show, I can't share what song prompted the story in my mind. Nevertheless, inspired by that song, I got to work later that day, developing the first pieces of the show that would eventually find the name Right on Time. But I was in no rush. After all, I was just a sophomore at that point, and I didn't know or care what my Honors Academy senior research project was going to be. I just had a neat little idea for a story, and maybe it would grow to completion, or maybe I would just scrap it the next day. Can you guess which way it went? The script underwent many gradual revisions, and I mean very gradual. I would write a line or two, drop it for a couple weeks, then check back in and say, "Oh yeah, I remember this thing," and repeat the cycle. Characters were added and dropped, monologues were tweaked over and over, then cut entirely, and all the while I didn't even know how the show would end. See, my original idea was a situation, an interesting scenario that could be fun to explore through the medium of playwriting. I had no idea how to conclude the show, or even how to begin it. Those are the things I worked out over about 1.5 years of revisions. Now, while this is a spoiler-free event, I'm happy to share the basic idea of my show with you all. It all goes back to that initial situation, the scene that arrived in my head as I walked along with my sister. I'll lay it out for you exactly how it came to me. We start with a totally blank slate. There's nothing to see, nothing to hear. Now, in the middle of this blank slate, we see a train station. It's a very small station, run down and well-loved. The train tracks run by the station, stretching on and on. The train's not here yet, but you can hear it in the distance, a soft but shrill whistle. But our attention isn't really on the train, it's on a man who sits on an old worn bench. He wears a black hat and smokes a pipe, looking out into the distance. There's a suitcase at his side. What's in the case? When is the train coming in? There's a ticket in his hand. Is it for Right on Time, on May 18th at 7 p.m. in the CLHS auditorium? Where is he going? These are the few simple questions you need to get a story started. How would you answer them? What story unfolds in your mind? If writing Right on Time taught me anything, it was that creativity is not linear. Some ideas begin at the end, with that glorious final moment that leaves an audience in awe. Some ideas quickly find their beginning and end, but leave a gaping hole in the middle for you to fill in. And that's alright. While writing Right on Time, I had 2 separate sections that I wrote in. The first was the actual script, beginning with the first line and carrying on as far as I had written. The second was a random jumble of unrelated lines, exchanges, and scenes. Information in these scattered dialogues contradicted itself, or didn't fit within the context of the show, or presented characters in impossible situations with no explanation of how they could possibly get there or continue from that point. But that was alright. Finding the right answer means experimenting, and sometimes writing total nonsense that you probably can't use, but you think it sounds cool, so heaven help you, you're gonna put it in there somehow. Creativity isn't linear. It's a crazy game of connect the dots, where you get to put the dots wherever you want, and you can connect and disconnect them until you've made something truly amazing. So, returning to the project. After a year and a half of on and off writing, the script was complete. There's only one problem. I still have an alarming amount of time left in my presentation to meet the minimum requirement. Not to worry, though, because as far as my senior research project goes, we haven't even reached the beginning. See, I finished the script shortly before the Honors Academy class of 22 was supposed to determine what our research projects would be. In other words, as the teacher was assigning the homework, I was holding the completed assignment in my hands. That was rather problematic. Obviously, I couldn't just turn in a project I'd completed as a hobby in my spare time, but I also really wanted to share Right on Time with the Concordia community, and I felt it was everything the senior research project stood for. You can probably guess how I solved this issue, because Right on Time is no longer just a script, it's a show. So the question is, how do we get from spring of 2021 to May 18th, 2022? And the answer is, one step at a time. Writing a script isn't easy, but it is essentially a one-man job. As long as I had free time and my phone had a charge, I could go to work. But a real play, an actual physical production, is a whole other animal. Specifically a collaborative animal. Production requires actors, directors, set designers, marketers, costume designers, a tech crew, and more. I couldn't just muscle through and get it all done. I had to rely on other people, which, as anyone who has ever been part of a group project can tell you, is absolutely terrifying. And not only did I have to work with these people, I had to find them first. Finding people to head various branches of the project was a daunting task, but a surprisingly eye-opening one. As I considered who might be able to lend me their expertise and experience, I realized just how gifted many of my peers were, as well as how many valuable connections I had. It just so happened that my sister Megan was, and is, an aspiring artist, and would be happy to sketch up a costume plan, plus a poster and program design while she was at it. Plus, I had one other factor working in my favor. I spend an unhealthy amount of time with the Concordia Drama Department. I recruited my techies in a casual conversation with friends, and located my costumer when I recalled a talented freshman who had been helping the drama department's primary costumer throughout the year. Of course, organizing these people was no easy task. It's a bit like that analogy of connect the dots from before, except that this time the dots are people, and sometimes you can connect the dots, but other times you just pray that they work themselves out. People are busy. They can't read my mind to know exactly what I'm looking for, but through constant communication and collaboration, all the pieces slowly fell into place, and the dots finally started to form a picture. At this point, those of you who have been paying close attention may realize what's missing from this picture. It's really a very minor piece of the puzzle, but if I was really gonna put on a show, I should probably get some actors at some point. So that's exactly what I did. Through a professional process I like to refer to as gentle coercion, names started to appear on my audition list, which was a massive relief to me. I spent more nights than I care to admit panicking about what I would do when only 2.5 people auditioned for my show. Of course, this fear was unfounded. I mean, come on, half a person? How would that even work? So I had a selection of incredible actors and actresses to pull from, for which I am deeply grateful. This project quite literally would not be possible without them. So here we are, standing at the end of it all. It's been a long, bumpy ride. I've learned a thing or two along the way. About myself, about others, about communication and organization, about how sound cues are deceptively hard to line up when it seems like it should just be so simple, but somehow there's always 20 things you forgot to consider, and they all make themselves known at the exact same time in the middle of a rehearsal. So many valuable lessons. My takeaway from the experience is this: don't let difficulties stand between you and what you love. Nothing worth doing comes for free. Scripts don't write themselves, posters don't design themselves, and casts don't assemble themselves. To put on a show, to do what I love, I've had to pull a lot of strings and lose a lot of sleep. But the feeling of sharing your dream with others and having them believe in it just as much as you do, is a feeling like no other. It can feel like an impossible task, a pipe dream, but don't fail to recognize the skills of the people around you. With the right support, dreams are attainable. All it takes is someone to pull the right people together. So connect the dots. There's a lot of them, and connecting them won't be easy, but they can make a pretty incredible picture once you're done. And anyway, what's theater without a little drama? That's a thespian joke for you. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and thank you very much for your time.